See, I can't leave well enough alone, right? Those two who are new here, I'm rebuilding, or building, Boba Fett's jump pack, or a jetpack. Printed, primed, or printed, bondoed, prepped the entire thing. We're at spray. We're not at spray. I am going to fiber reinforce the entire shell. Because, like I said, I can't leave well enough alone. It's absolutely fine the way it is. I want it a little finer. So, we'll pull you in, show you where we're at. I want to take a minute to talk about fiberglassing as a noun. So, now when people talk about fiberglassing, they tend to refer to the fiber cloth and polyester resins. It's kind of what we're going to do. There's lots of different ways. Fiber reinforcing is a fantastic way to strengthen stuff. I was going to use this. It's a thin 100% cotton. You don't have to use fiberglass. Fiberglass mat. And yeah, I'm definitely not using polyester resins. When people say fiberglassing is bad for you, it's the resins they're referring to. Fiber mat itself, it's no worse than insulation. The resins I'm going to use are standard Smoothcast 300. Not the best for this situation. They make a product, epoxamite. It is designed for doing layers like this. I'm not using it because I'm saving that for a different project. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of this fiber mat, lay it out, resined, and then lay it on. I'll probably bring you in so you can see a little better. First, I'm going to need a pair of gloves. So let me rearrange things a little bit and we'll see where we're at. This entire thing has been prepped. It's been sanded, it's been smoothed. It should be good to go. This thing is a very odd shape. So I'm kind of playing it by ear here. This fiber mat has seen better days. Probably got some resin dripped on it. As is the nature of fiber mat. You know what? I've got some brand new stuff. I'm just going to use the brand new stuff. If I have it, I might as well use it. I'm going to start along the tanks. I want it to be a little long. We're going to trim it down with a Dremel later. But first, I just want to make sure I have the a good coating on it. Part of the reason I use Smoothcast 300 is it's real difficult to mess up. As long as your proportions are close. Doesn't even have to be exact. As long as they're close, you're going to get a good product. But also, the MSDS on it, I don't need to wear masks. It's not toxic in that sense. I am absolutely going to destroy these scissors. But scissors can be sharpened. A lot of people out there who are all super neurotic about things, right? I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, don't use that hammer. That hammer isn't for nails. That hammer is only for brad nail. No, it's a hammer. Hammers are for hammering. I feel the same thing about scissors. The steel in these are designed to be sharpened. So things shouldn't be overtly precious, right? You should take care of your tools, absolutely, but they don't need to be precious. Step one is going to be coat the whole thing in resin, put the mat on top of it, smooth everything out. I'm wearing gloves because, this is going to be messy, but it is what it is. Equal parts A and B. And before I dump all these together, I need a thing to stir with. I had a bunch of spoons. I seem to have run out of spoons. Alright. I mix B into A because B is a little more viscous. So it takes a little bit longer for it to drain in. Alright. So my goal is to get as much of this tank covered as possible. Again, I am using this mat instead of my table because the mat peels up much easier. If I had a vacuum, this would be unbelievably easy. A vacuum table. And a little more resin. So I'm only doing a little at a time so I don't have to fight with gravity or anything weird. Because the last thing I want is resin to pour all over my fiber mat. So they make these bags that you can put your project in and just vacuum everything in place. Oh my goodness. One of those would be super useful right here. But I don't have one. So we're just going to have to play it by ear. Seems to be my MO. Modus operandi, if you will. I had originally planned on doing all this on the inside, but cards did not play out that way. So I have a ton of resin left over. Because, of course, my infinite wisdom, I did the second line, not the first line. Which means I have minutes to coat this before it's done. It's already starting to warm up. All I'm worried about at this point is making everything smooth. Trying to keep all the air bubbles out. I should have mixed way less than I did. But that's okay. So now we let this do its thing for about 15 minutes. This side's already kicking. This side probably take a little bit longer because I messed with it a little more. This time, I'm going to go to the first line. Alright, same thing. It has cured pretty okay. Everything's still pretty pliable, which is what I want. This is a game of working in batches. The less I use, I'd rather use less more often than use a bunch right away. So if I have to mix up another batch, it's not the end of the world. There's certain spots I'm not worried about, like the actual tanks. I'm not worried about the tanks. Those actually came out pretty good. They printed very well. So I have to wait till it starts to set up and then manually push all these edges in. It's a complex shape, so I'm not super surprised. I knew that going in. The smart thing to do would have been to have done this before I bondoed everything, before I added all the glazing putty, because it would have absolutely made the whole thing stronger to start. But I was like, nah, I don't need it. I'm not gonna this time. I'm just gonna 3D print a thing. You'd think I'd learn by now. So this shape is super complicated because it concaves in. That and the fact that I have resin on top of it doesn't make things any easier either. So I know I have a gap here where the edge is, so I am just going to apply a bunch of glue, a bunch of resin, and let it just do its thing. So if I do end up with a gap over here, an air gap along this edge, I'm just going to put some resin in there and fill it up. So it's not the end of the world. None of this is super critical, right? Because it's not a load-bearing jetpack that's actually going to fly or any of that. It's just, you know, it's a prop. I'm going to be much happier with a fiber-reinforced jetpack. And the fact that I actually chose fiberglass as opposed to just denim or cotton makes me super happy. Now, one of our local Boba Fetts, his name is Chris. He's not a Boba Fett, he's a Mando. I guess he's got a bunch of different Boba Fetts. I'm going to sound like a horrible Star Wars fan. I can't remember the other Boba Fett's name. But he Peppa-Cura'd his entire kit. I mean, any of you remember Peppa-Cura? It was a thing that was a thing about a decade ago, right before 3D printers exploded. And it's all paper craft. And he, oh my goodness, the skill this guy has, it's unbelievable. We were at a convention, or an expo, up in Wisconsin. One of the Boba Fett's up there was talking to you. Yeah, but the backpack's so heavy. He's going on and on about how unpleasant his backpack was. Chris picks up his backpack. He goes, oh yeah? Goes like that and just picks it up with a pinky. And the guy just goes. And then Chris sets it on the ground and gets up and stands on it. Oh my goodness, that kid almost lost his mind. He used denim and fiber reinforcing just like this. All right, that seems to have set perfect. Now we just need to get this to do it. And His stuff is immaculate. I mean, he's a very, very good builder. If he had a YouTube channel, I would link it. And he's a great builder. And he did a lot of fiber reinforcing. Which is part of the reason I wanted to do that on this one. A lot of the people around me inspire me. When I get inspired to do a thing, I try to do a thing, right? We can find inspiration everywhere. I could list channels that have inspired me for days. We're going to let it do its thing for a good 10 minutes now. So, I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. Probably going to trim some of this extra stuff up while I'm at it. So I've just cleaned this side up. So you can see, if I wait for the resin to fully cure, which takes about 24 hours, it's going to be rock hard, not going to be easy to cut. Now, I can just run a blade and it'll cut right through everything. If I take a couple minutes, I can peel up all the resin that has spilled everywhere else. And, you know, what would take me hours to sand can take me a couple of minutes just to cut. So all I'm doing, finding the edge, running the blade along it, not even trying to be overtly careful about it. I'm trying to overcut, and as soon as I can see the edge, I can trim it up more. Let me come over to you so you can see what I'm talking about. Or so you can see what I'm doing. Alright. So just once I cut this piece off, I can see where my edge is now. And I can just trim everything up. It doesn't have to be super accurate at this point because I'm going to put another coat on. Not another fiber mat, just another coat of resin. Now that the resin has something to fully grip onto. So now I can come in and much more accurately cut the fiber mat. And when I put my next coat of resin on, it'll seal in all these little loose frays. And once we get ready to paint it, I'll have all those sanded off anyway. That's the fiber mat process, right? It's not overtly difficult. It'll create a super strong product. Next step is to just little by little overlap everything, go piece by piece by piece until the whole thing is covered. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do the dental molding. I'm going to be careful around all of these details, and I'm probably not even touching these tanks because I think the tanks are good. But I'm just going to keep going on. Words are difficult today, and I don't know why. This stuff does have a grain. I want to try and keep all of it going in the same direction. And I don't really want to turn it. So if I go 45, it's just going to... I mean, it may work fine, but... Also, if you watch this, right, this is with the weave going perpendicular. So it's got no stretch this way and no stretch this way, but on the diagonal, I tend to get a lot of play. So if I need to stretch over a thing, that's usually the way to do it. This piece is just going to go on top. I want it to cover. Also, there was a seam here and here. That is 100% going to go away. Because the fiber mat is going to fill in all of those little gaps. And I just won't have to deal with them. My goal for this particular piece is to cover this, the middle stripe, as much as possible. I want to make sure it goes over the edge and over this edge. I may need to cut relief cuts in here, like one would with fabric, and that's okay. Kind of wish I'd centered it a little better. Which is why we're doing little bits at a time. And if I make a little mistake here and there, it's not the end of the world. Heck, it's not even the end of the project. Yes, this will cost me a little bit of detail, but I'll still have the detail where I need it. I should have opened the knife before I got my hands all coated in resin. Oh well. It is what it is, right? So that's as good as it's going to get. I need to stop messing with it and walk away. It's real hard when you see a bubble and you're like, I could do that, and then the next one forms and you're like, oh, no, and There will always be bubbles. As long as my edges are sharp, nothing else really matters at this point. All right, give it 10 minutes. And that's it, right? I know it looks kind of touch and go right now. We're not done yet. We're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I say that all the time, right? And I wish there was some kind of a secret or a trick that could be like, haha, now this is where it gets difficult. None of this, and I do mean none of this, is difficult. It's all just repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again, and it's just practice. And I really wish there was a secret to making props or costumes or just about anything, really. And there isn't. It is just practice and do it like they told you to do it. How did you get so good at all that stuff you do? Well, I've been doing it a really long time. Oh, so it's just a talent? No. No, it's something I had to work on. Oh, man. Wish I could do that. You can. Just practice. Oh, I don't have that talent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put another piece here. Put another piece here. I'm going to fold this down. I'm going to put another piece here. I'm just going to keep putting pieces until everything is covered. And then I'm going to let it cure. We're going to sand it. And then I'm going to prime and paint, and it's going to be done. I know I make it over, that may be an oversimplification of everything I'm doing, but it's just what I'm doing. So, the hardest part of the entire process is knowing what you need to know. And what I mean by that is this is called fiberglass matting. You don't have to use it. You can fiber reinforce with just about anything. Any form of resin will work. Really. Heck, you could probably do it with PVA glue. I haven't tried, but you probably could. Yeah, just regular old Elmer's glue would probably work. You don't have to use fiberglass. Any form of matting will work. Denim works fantastic. Cotton works pretty okay. There are no secrets. Right? There's no cabal of makers who go, oh, I don't want the world to know this. Oh my goodness. You ever talk to a maker? They won't shut up. They will not shut up about how they do the things they do. Oh my goodness. If there was a secret, but there isn't. And if you ask any maker, they're going to tell you the same thing. Oh, it's just practice. I've just been doing it a while. Yeah, anybody can do it, really. I've never met a maker who's like, oh no, this is an art form. I'm afraid it's not a thing you can do. And if you find ones who say things like that, run. Is it the right way to do things? Probably not. Is this the right way to do things? More than likely not. But it is how I do things. It seems to work for me. If I were to say there was a secret, it would be to work in sections. Be careful, don't overdo it. It's real easy to overdo it. You know, bite off more than you can chew. Just finished the bottom part. We'll let it cure overnight. See you in the morning. So the whole thing is now covered in a bunch of pieces of fiberglass. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to sand everything, smooth it out, and then do another coat of body filler on top of it. After a couple rounds of paint, sanding, priming, I got exactly to where we were before I felt the need to fiber reinforce it. Looks good. I'm happy with it. There's a couple issues here and there that are hard to get to, but when it comes to paint, paint will cover everything. And that's about it for now. I think I'm going to take a break with Boba Fett for a little bit. Let the weather warm up a little bit before I try and paint him. But I'm going to paint him. He's going to show up. So if you're interested in seeing how this finishes out, like and subscribe. Other than that, I'll see you next time.